Imagine a prison where food is available for everyone, yet most people are starving. This is not a story about monsters, this is a story about us. The Platform is a Spanish survival thriller film set inside a strange and terrifying vertical prison. This prison is known as the Pit. It is structured like a tall building, with 2 prisoners on each level. Food is delivered in a very unusual way. A large platform filled with food descends from the top floor to the bottom, stopping briefly at every level. At the highest levels, the food is fresh and abundant. But as the platform moves downward, less and less food remains. Through this brutal system, the film explores themes like human greed, social inequality, and morality. The story begins with a man named Goring, who voluntarily chooses to enter this prison. His goal is simple: he wants to quit smoking and earn a diploma. When Goring wakes up for the first time, he discovers that he is on level 48, sharing the cell with an elderly and experienced inmate named Trimagasi. Trimagasi already understands how this place works and explains the harsh rules of survival to Goring. Every day, the platform starts from the top. Prisoners on upper levels can eat as much as they want, without thinking about those below them. Because of this greed, prisoners on lower floors are often left with almost nothing to eat. As a result, people on the lower levels slowly starve. In extreme situations, some prisoners are even forced to abandon their humanity and resort to cannibalism just to stay alive. At first, Goring tries to understand the system and survive within it. But very quickly, he realizes a horrifying truth: there is no place for morality inside the pit. Trimagasi eventually attacks Goring, planning to kill and eat him to survive. However, Goring manages to escape and kills Trimagasi instead. This incident deeply traumatizes Goring, both mentally and emotionally. Slowly, he begins to question the system and decides that something must change. One of the most disturbing rules of the prison is that every month, prisoners are randomly shifted to a different level. If you live comfortably on a higher floor one month, the next month you might wake up on a very low level, where survival is nearly impossible. This constant uncertainty creates extreme fear, violence, and tension, because everyone knows their position is temporary. Another important character in the story is Imagiri, a woman who once worked in the prison's administrative system. She believes that if prisoners cooperated and shared food, there would actually be enough for everyone. Imagiri tells Goring that if people start thinking about others instead of themselves, this cruel system can be fixed. However, her thinking proves to be too idealistic, because most prisoners are driven by fear and greed, not morality. This film delivers a deep social message, clearly showing how inequality and class division operate in society. The upper levels represent the rich and powerful, who enjoy abundance and comfort. Meanwhile, the lower levels symbolize the poor and oppressed, who are forced to survive on scraps, or starve. The film raises a powerful question. What happens to a society when resources are not distributed fairly? Goring's journey is not just a physical struggle for survival, but also a moral and emotional test. He considers himself a righteous person, but inside this system, even he is forced to compromise his principles at times. Again and again, he questions himself. Can one person really change this system? Slowly, Goring realizes that real change can only happen if people work together. In the final part of the film, Goring teams up with another prisoner, Bahara, and decides to ride the platform all the way down to the lowest level. They want to see the true condition of the people at the bottom. On their way down, they face extreme violence, suffering, and death, finally understanding how inhuman life is on the lower floors. At the very bottom, they discover something shocking. A young child. Children are not supposed to exist inside the prison, yet this child is living there. To Goring, this child becomes the ultimate symbol of the system's failure. He believes that sending the child upward on the platform will deliver the strongest possible message. A message that the people at the top can no longer ignore. The film ends here, without revealing whether this message brings any real change or not. The ending is deliberately left open, forcing the audience to ask themselves: is a message enough to change society? Or does real change require something far more drastic? This film exposes social inequality, unfair distribution of resources, and the selfish instincts hidden inside human nature. It shows how far a person can fall when hunger takes over, and how a cruel system can turn people against one another. The ending of the film leaves the audience with many unanswered questions. Will the child reaching the top bring real change to the system? Or will it become just another failed attempt? Is sending a message alone enough to change society? Or does true transformation require a much bigger revolution? The platform acts as a powerful social warning, forcing us to reflect on where humanity is heading if greed and selfishness are left unchecked. The film also asks an uncomfortable but important question. Do we truly have the moral courage required to build a fair and equal society? Or will we continue to act only for our personal survival and benefit, ignoring the suffering of others?